Hey guys, it's capt.caption, and today we're going to talk about all the NPCs who might return in Elden Ring's upcoming DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. The 1-year anniversary since the official announcement is right around the corner, so it's time to start preparing some new save files for the content. Whether you plan on making a new save file or using an older one, this video will cover which quest lines you'll want to keep your eye on. So if you guys enjoyed this video, consider checking out my channel. The support means so much. With that said, let's jump right into the first character. There are many reasons to assume Patches will have a return in Elden Ring's future content. First off, he's quite literally the multiversal being of the series, as he's the only character to appear in multiple From Software games. Still, even if we ignore that evidence, looking at the end of his questline seems to further prove his return. In earlier versions of the game, his questline would end right here in the Shaded Castle. After speaking to him and hearing his final request for you, he slumps over in defeat. Reloading the area causes him to completely disappear, leaving the player unsure if he's even alive. Well, the update quickly showed players his well-being, as you'll find him back in Murkwater Cave. He attacks you at first, but then quickly realizes who you are and ceases combat. He reopens his business, and that's about it. Yet something about his identity and popularity in the Souls community makes me expect his return in the DLC. On top of all of this, he also has connections with the very next character I'm about to talk about. Tanith is another NPC that I wouldn't be surprised to see in Shadow of the Erdtree, and there is no coincidence that Patches and Tanith have interlinking questlines. In fact, the request that Patches gives you at the Shaded Castle has to do with none other than Tanith herself. He wants you to give her the dancer's castanets, which suggests a complex background between the two characters. All of this takes place after the death of Rykard, so when returning back to the manor, you'll find Tanith in a sorry state, eating the corpse of her beloved lord. I remember thinking that the dancer's castanets would help her get out of this sorry state during my first playthrough, but instead, the gift seems to just annoy her. She just keeps eating and eating, claiming that the serpent can regrow inside her. There's also this piece of dialogue earlier in the game. All of this seems to point at a future return of Tanith, and perhaps some altered version of Rykard. Even if Rykard fails to be regrown, I can totally imagine Tanith and her knight trying to hunt us down for revenge, which is something Patches would surely have a lot to say about. The only thing bringing this claim down is the fact that you can get the knight to attack you when killing her, and this gives you an additional incantation. Still, I think the possibilities of a return here are pretty strong. Jarbaran is for sure one of the most loved NPCs in this entire game. Surprisingly, he has a somewhat happy message for players towards the end of his quest. When both Dielos and Alexander die, they create a lot of motivation inside the little jar, making him want to become a warrior. We see this as his dialogue progresses throughout the game. First, he just mentions his thoughts on setting off for a journey, and then he makes it official. Usually when an NPC states that they're going on a journey, and their questline ends, they reappear in future content. So we might get to see Jarbaran become a real warrior. Hopefully nothing bad happens to him though. Just like Jarbaran, Jiren also ends his questline in a healthy state and says this right here. Something about this dialogue seriously suggests a possible return of the character. If you choose Selen's side in the quest, she pretty much dies, or is at least cursed into whatever this is. Therefore, I highly recommend siding with Jiren instead, as we may see him again in the lands between. The evidence for Rodrika's return is pretty simple. Firstly, she doesn't die like most characters, and secondly, she's a spirit tuner. Now, if you're wondering why I'm mentioning that, take another look at the DLC cover art. There are dozens of spirit-looking objects scattered around the landscape. Something about this hints to the magic of summoning becoming more relevant to the story. And when you really think about it, Rodrika is the only NPC to get involved in the idea of summoning. That is, if you disregard minor events like Ranni giving you the spirit summoning bell and Nefeli loving the Stormhawk Ash. I'd like to give an honorable mention to Hugh as well. Although his very memories crumble alongside the Roundtable hold, if he sees Rodrika go somewhere, he will follow her. No matter how much of him is gone, he will always defend her as a guard. I wasn't completely sure of Raya having a return in this game until I considered two things. Tanith is Raya's adoptive mother. During her questline, Tanith will ask you to give Raya a potion of forgetfulness. If you give her the potion, Raya forgets her true form, a serpent, and remains a human in the manor. If you don't give the potion, then Raya leaves a note. This was the other factor that convinced me to include Raya on the list. The note reads the following: I wish to set out on a journey so that one day I can carry on mother's work, be the proud daughter of Tanith of Volcano Manor. Raya is very similar to Jarbaran in this way, as she states she wants to set off on a journey. Considering Raya also has connections to the manor, Rykard, and Tanith, it seems likely that there is more to her story. She even states that she wants to become the proud daughter of Tanith. If Tanith does become the next serpent, what will Raya think of that? Only time can tell at this point. Just like Patches' questline, Nefeli and Kenneth Haight had an expansion to their quest. Kenneth, on a search to find a fit lord for Limgrave, finally meets Nefeli Liu, and they team up. The reason I would consider this below the likely standard is just because there's such a fitting end to Nefeli's character arc. I really don't want anything bad to happen to her, as she's one of my favorite characters in the entire game. Something about her finding peace as a protector of Limgrave is very fitting after the journey she's been through. As for Kenneth, things are different. Very early on in his questline, he offers you a lesson in knighthood. And here, he promises to grant that to you when he returns back to his fort. Considering he never actually returns back to his fort, this might be part of the update. Perhaps he and many other NPCs turn the place into a second hub area. Imagine returning to a camp and seeing Kenneth, Jiren, and Raya all working there. Although this is super unlikely, anything is possible. You may remember Darien and Fia dying, but don't forget that Devon actually lives. He's Darien's forgotten twin brother, who eventually avenges his sibling's death by killing Fia. After you speak with him and reload the area, he's missing. You can find the armor and the sword, but no body or blood. Instead, Fia's corpse is the only thing to remain, meaning Devon might still be alive. It's also possible that he took the nearby portal as an escape route into the capital. Since Godwin could have a big role in the DLC, we might team up with Devon one last time to face him. Another element that might have some involvement in the DLC is the Flame of Frenzy. If you inherit Chaos, he'll leave his armor set and disappear, although you'll find out he is alive and well when you summon him for Godfrey. Even if you kill this guy, he reminds you that he is a literal ghost who cannot die. So even though this is a bit of a stretch, it is definitely possible that he might make a return, alongside with Hayata. This one is short and simple. Gostok never dies, and he clings to Nefeli and Kenneth. If Kenneth leaves the castle, there's a chance Gostok will follow him. But that's all I really have to say about this guy. Here are some of the quick honorable mentions to end the video. These people are really just characters who survive and might have some update to them. They include Rani, Corin, Latenna, the Turtle Pope, and every other merchant. The only one out of all of these people who might have updates is Kale. I'm only saying this because he has an entire cut questline that involves the Flame of Frenzy. If Chaos is a part of this expansion, well, his cut content might appear alongside Vikes. There are also questlines that weren't just shortened from the game, but completely removed, so we can expect new characters to appear as well. It's safe to say there's a lot to look forward to with this game. We might get a trailer soon, considering this video should upload right around Elden Ring's 2-year release date. I wanted to give an apology for the lack of uploads these past 30 days. Life, honestly, has just been busy, and as of recently, I just got over being sick, so I'm finally ready to work on content again. I have just a few more Elden Ring videos I want to get out before the DLC, and then I'll jump back into my Dark Souls 3 playthrough and possibly some Dark Souls Remastered content. Just like Elden Ring, this channel is going to be updated in the future. I'm super excited, and I really appreciate all the patience and support from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.